Okay, so for spelling this week, I'm not going to be dictating a spelling list. You have some review words from throughout the year that I want you to practice this week, Monday through Thursday. And you could start out today by taking a practice test and just see if you already know how to spell all those words. And if you get them all right, then hey, you're done with spelling for first grade. But if you don't get them all right, I put in a few practice activities for you to do this week to work on the ones you still need to learn, because the words on this list are super basic, very commonly used words that you really need to know to read and to spell. So if you miss any on your pretest Monday, practice those this week, and then you can test yourself again Thursday to see how you do if you've learned them over the week. I'm not going to ask you to send me the test score. Today, though, I want us to think some more about the Z sound. Z. And we know that there are two ways to spell the Z sound with the letter Z, and what's the other way? Right, the second sound of S. S says Z. So we can use either one of those letters. So how do we know when to use an S, and how do we know when to use a Z if it's a word that we aren't familiar with? Okay, so I have my whiteboard, beginning, middle, and end, and I'm talking about where we hear the Z sound. Do we hear it at the beginning of the word, the middle, or the end? So let's think about a few simple words. We all know, you can write these with me on your whiteboard. Zoo. Everybody knows how to do zoo, and we're hearing the Z sound at the beginning of the word, right? So let's write zoo. We hear Z at the beginning of zoo, and we spell it with a Z. How about the word zip? Z-if. Zip, spelled with a Z. And zero. Two syllables, Z-ro. First syllable, Z-E, saying its name at the end of a syllable, rule 4, so it doesn't need anything else with it. And then second syllable, ro, o, zero. Again, we hear that Z at the beginning of the word. All right, let's think about when we hear it in the middle of a word. Use is a very common word that we need to write and spell. It's a magic E word. It just doesn't have a consonant at the beginning. So you have vowel, consonant, magic E. Use. See if you can write it. Okay, did you write U-S-E? Got a silent E, use, making the U say its name, magic E. Now look at that. We spelled the Z sound with the S, making its second sound. And we think of a word that has a Z in the middle. I thought of a word that ends with Z, then we put a suffix on it, which then changes it to the middle. So let's write this at the end first. The word buzz. Buzz. Sound that out and write that. B-Z. Did you remember two Z's? Good job. Okay, so if we write the bee buzzes, we put buzz, and then to make it plural, do we add S or ES? Do you remember? Z is considered a hissing sound at the end of the word, so it has to be ES. So at the beginning of the word we have only Z's making the Z sound. In the middle we have S or Z, and at the end we have Z. Can we have an S making the Z sound at the end? How about his? His, right? His. Is S or Z? S. Very good. And has, and as. So here's what we learned from this. We can spell the Z sound in the end of a word with either the Z or the S. In the middle, we can use either Z or S. But at the beginning of a word, we only use the Z. You're never going to have an S making its second sound at the beginning of a word. That's never going to happen. So, if you're writing a word and you're not sure if it starts with S or Z, if that sound is at the beginning, you know it has to be a Z. So, that is the rule for this week. Z, never S, is used to say Z at the beginning of a base word. So, you can get this page out and do it. And see if you can think of some other examples of words that start with Z. I can think of an animal that lives at the zoo that starts with a Z. I bet you can figure that out. And if you have trouble thinking of other Z words, you can always look on Google or your dictionary. Let's read the words we wrote for practice. Ready? Zoo, zip, zero, use, buzzes, buzz, his, as. Okay, the only other spelling rule that was in your packet is the Eadie Rule. And you can do this for fun if you want. We don't really practice or test this specifically by itself at the end of the year because we've been doing it all year long. Edit, past tense ending. Okay. And what this rule is saying is that if it comes after a D or a T in a word, then it makes its own syllable and says ed. And if it doesn't come after D or T, then it says d or t. But we've already talked about that. So you don't have to do this unless you want to for fun. In the next video, we will talk about the shun suffix. So get ready to write some big words. See you later.